Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so excited that you are part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. We have a wonderful guest for you today. She is here to tell us about Kip and the Magic Belt. Her name is Victoria Gracie. Before we invite Victoria to come in to tell us about Kip and the Magical Belt and also about Kaylin Finds Her Power, I want to tell you all about the Reading with Your Kids totally interactive booth at the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, November 23rd and 24th at Navy Pier in Chicago. This is the biggest toy and game fair in North America. We are so excited to be part of it, and we're really excited that we're going to be able to give families a chance to find out what it's like to be a guest on a podcast. We're going to have some fantastic books for families to check out, and then come on and give a little review. Tell us what they think about the book. Tell us what they think the book might be all about. We're going to record that. Your family is going to receive a copy of that recording, and we may use it on a future episode of the podcast. And everybody who comes on and does the recording is going to be entered to win our giant prize basket. We're really excited. You know, in addition to our booth, families at the Chicago Toy and Game Fair will be able to experience and play with life-size toy and games. They'll be able to meet inventors. They're going to be able to meet authors. It's going to be so much fun. And check this out. If you go to shytag.com, and use the promo code RWYK, our initials, Reading with Your Kids, you can save $3 on each ticket that you purchase, and there is no limit to the number of tickets that you purchase. You can, invite your whole church and buy tickets for everybody at your church and bring them all down in a bus. We have a fantastic time. It's November 23rd and 24th, Navy Pier, the Chicago Toy and Game Fair. Joining us on the line right now from the Los Angeles area in California. I'm really, really excited to be speaking to our guest today. She's talking about an issue that's very, very near and dear to my heart for a lot of different reasons. The issue is bullying. And she's just written a wonderful book that is going to inspire lots and lots of kids. The name of the book is Kaylin Finds Her Power. Please welcome to the show, Victoria Gracie. Victoria, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Jed.
I'm really excited to have you on the show, and I'm really excited for you to tell us all about Kaylin Finds Her Power.
Yeah, I'm so stoked. This book came from my heart, Jed. I was honestly because as a child, I understood the social and emotional interesting environments that children get put into naturally. And again, it's part of nature. I'm not saying it's bad. We don't have to change the world, but we have to equip our children to navigate this world. And those emotional issues will come up, and giving them the maximum amount of tools and understanding of what they're dealing with will set them up for success later in life. And I think that there's no better time to bridge that gap between now and later than with a children's book. So Kaylin Finds Her Power is that for me. And it's about a young girl who gets her toy taken, which I think every child can relate to. Mm-hmm. Something that she finds really important to her gets taken away from her and then is made fun of for it. And all the people in her life kind of show her different ways to approach it. One of her friends says, you know what, we should get really mad and we should just be vicious. This is how we should handle it. Another friend says, just forget about him. Cut him off completely. Don't even have this friend. Another one tries to distract with jokes. The dad even tries to distract with toys. So it just shows that children, have these hard experiences, and the people in their lives will attempt to give them options. And then, of course, Kaylin finds her way to herself. And with the help of a magical belt and her close friend, she really sits with herself and sees what of those or anything else works for her, and she really finds her inner power. And I called this emotional jujitsu because I really believe that we all deal with this on a daily basis. Something happens. We don't know how we feel about it. Many people around us try to give us their ideas of what they think we should do, and then we're kind of stuck with, how do I traverse this? Mm-hmm. And being being equipped with that really early on and understanding that the choice is always ours and that the power is in that choice empowers every single one of us. And so I titled it Kaylin Finds Her Power because that's what I believe she does.
You know, you brought up so many different things, and I want to talk about all. No, and it's true. All the things that you mentioned are really true. The thing that really struck me is that whole idea of, you know, Kaylin experienced this really upsetting thing, because it is when you're 4, 5, 7. I know some 35-year-olds who get very upset when someone takes their toy. You know, it is. It's really upsetting. And a lot of us, our first reaction is to kind of look at the situation through our own eyes and then offer suggestions. Maybe it's jokes, maybe it's humor, maybe it's violence, maybe it's, oh, forget about it, let it go. And I think as parents, one of the things that's important for us to do, and I think we forget a lot of times, is to kind of, before we start offering suggestions, to kind of hear how the child is feeling and how the child is experiencing this.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love to do the same with my 2 daughters. I have 2 daughters, 4 and 6. When something happens, before I even ask them, I read their body language. I don't react. I look, and I'm watching, and I go, oh my goodness. To me, she looks like she's scared. But then I go, how are you feeling? And she goes, whatever. And I'm like, oh, wow, my interpretation of her, you know, emotional embodiment was off. Mm-hmm. Or she's lying to herself. I'm not sure. But then I ask her about it, and I discern a little deeper. And I think sometimes as parents, we're really quick to judge what we felt about it. Oh, that was so mean. How could she have taken your toy? But my daughter really didn't care. She's like, whatever. I didn't really want it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, oops. Mm-hmm. Glad I didn't make that into anything bigger than what it really was, you know.
I also love the fact that you, refer to jujitsu and this. Why? Tell us. We talked about it before the show, but tell us a little bit why you come at this through the lens of jujitsu.
Thanks for asking, Jed. I come from a non-jiu-jitsu background for a long point of my life, and I realized that I was ill-equipped. And when I met my husband, who is part of the Gracie family, who uses jiu-jitsu in everything, even down to the way he cuts a watermelon, I'm like, how does jiu-jitsu pertain to this? He's like, Victoria, everything is jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is interesting. I quickly realized as I started to learn the art that jiu-jitsu is a very gentle way of neutralizing any situation that is either dangerous or not in your favor. And I said, wow, like this really is something that can be applied to all aspects of our life, and finding the peace with that is beautiful. So when I wrote my first book, Kip and the Magical Belt, it was a very straightforward, kid gets bullied, kid is, getting pushed around. Here are the physical components that you can use to stand up for yourself, set a boundary, and physically protect yourself. And I, in the book, even showed pictures of him practicing with his bear and then defeating this bully. But in the second book, Kaylin Finds Her Power, I recognize for many children, the bullying happens on an unseeable level, something they can't touch or feel. And then you can't always tell a teacher, well, they hurt my feelings. And what does the teacher say? Toughen up, kid. Like there's not much empathy or even instruction on how to build your emotional jiu-jitsu strength. And many times things don't even get physical until the emotions have been overflowing out of their cup of safety. Mm-hmm. And if I realize how, oh my goodness, Kaylin Finds Her Power has to happen. The emotional understanding of what is going on behind or before or in the midst of bullying needs to be seen and addressed. So my jiu-jitsu background, I teach women and children jiu-jitsu thanks to my husband and the family and the 3 or 4 generations of martial arts before them. And the fact that it was brought here and that I'm gifted with the ability to share that with others in more than just physical ways is an honor, and I hope that I am doing it justice.
I really like this because I have a great respect for martial artists, and I studied a little bit. I studied enough to understand that it's not about being the biggest, strongest guy and beating people up. It's about discipline, and it's about the way you carry yourself and the way you look at at situations. Just for fun, because I share this with you when, before I started my career as an educational magician and traveling around, I was in human services, and my last job in human services was running an after-school program, and I had worked with kids with severe developmental disabilities before that and worked one-on-one with kids. But this was kind of the first job that I had working with quote-unquote typical kids in a kind of recreational setting. And one of the things that blew me away was, the guys, if they get upset with each other, maybe there'd be a punch or two, and it'd be over. And they'd shake hands, and they'd go about their business. But I was blown away when these third and fourth grade girls would come up and they're in tears. So-and-so won't play with me, and she's telling all the other girls not to play with me. And I had no idea how to deal with that.
It's called I call it emotional warfare.
Yeah.
And women and girls learn it so young because they don't care to hit. Why should we? When we can emotionally go to war with the people around it. It's interesting. Mm.
We'll talk a little bit about, because I know my daughter, and I was a little bit better dealing with it when my daughter got to be, when I had my daughter and she got to be third or fourth grade. And she was actually strong enough when it happened to her. Her response was to turn around to the girls and goes, I don't need anybody to be my best friend. I want to be friends with everyone. And if you can't deal with that, forget you. But how would you, as a master of this emotional jiu-jitsu, what would you suggest to a parent whose kid just came home with that same kind of scenario?
Well, first, let me just address how well you must have raised your daughter to come back with such a strong statement like, I don't need any of you guys to be my best friend. That's my kind of girl. I love that. Second, I appreciate you calling me a master at emotional jiu-jitsu. I like to call it a never-ending practice. Mastery, to me, it feels like it's unattainable in this particular realm, in my opinion. And although I do know some people, maybe one or two, who may believe and think, and I may say that they are, I definitely think that it's a never-ending practice for me. And when I look at that in children and in parents, the thing I could offer is that before we tell them what to do, what to say, what to respond, we must first address what they're actually feeling. Mm-hmm. And then when we understand what they're feeling, we address why they're feeling that way. Why is it important to you that those girls include you? And when we understand that they're looking for external validity, they're looking for community, they're looking for a way to exist and find their peers. And then we start to give them options from there. Are these peers really something you want to be around when they treat people this way? We offer them the fact that while this is the community that they have chosen to date, it doesn't have to be the community that they cultivate forever. And I think that is a lot for many girls from elementary through even high school, is what I'll call like the fish tank or fish bowl idea that, well, this is the only tank I have to make the best of it. So then when it doesn't work out, you really hate your existence because you think that this is your tank. Mm-hmm. And giving children and parents and families a way and an ability to expand their life outside of just those four friends and understand, like, A, we can make new friends. B, we can also expect more from the friends at which we're having, which means we're willing to go to them and have that difficult conversation that says, I really don't like that you're leaving me out for these reasons. And then ask them why, sit with them, and be willing to hear the hard things that they might say. And so many of us as humans and as the children that we raise, we don't really have opportunities to have these difficult conversations and walk them through being in discomfort with that. Mm-hmm. And being willing to hear them say, well, because you never share, or because you act really bossy. Mm-hmm. And then they can't self-reflect and they can't overcome and actually forgive. So the first answer was, of course, to create a whole new community, which is an answer. Mm-hmm. But before that, I would really, really ask parents to sit in difficult discomfort with other parents and their children and be willing to watch their kids say some really hard things, like, I don't like how you boss me around. I don't like the way that you do X, Y, or Z. But we're so protective of our children and their feelings and like, well, they can't get hurt. They can't hear those hard things. You know what? Maybe your kid needs to hear that thing to know that, hey, I don't care about that. I don't want to be friends with someone that's not cool with that. Done.
Yeah.
And let them really make those choices.
Well, I think that's one of the things, and I hope it doesn't sound silly, me, referring back to jiu-jitsu, but I think that's one of the things that we learn in athletics and in jiu-jitsu is that you don't win all the time. You're not successful all the time. And every time that you fail, you're moving closer to success. And I think that's one thing that we forget. There's so many parents forget that, and they're overprotective. They don't want their kids to lose a baseball game. I pulled what little hair I had out of my head when my son was younger, and the people in the community had heard that I had coached at a soccer team on a competitive level at a high school team. And they said, you have to come down here and coach our youth team. You'd be great. And the first thing that shocked me was they didn't keep score. And I said, the kids keep score. And, it just was like, no, you don't push don't push the kids to run harder. I go, well, how do we make them get better? And it was a very short-lived time for me. But I think we need to allow our kids to fail, whether it's on a soccer field, on a jiu-jitsu mat, or in a conversation with others.
Yeah, and I agree with that so deeply. And how I look at it is that the more they fail at a young age, where they build resilience, the less when they're older and they fail, they'll be less likely to topple over or be completely hit to the floor over the fact that they didn't get that job that they wanted, because they think that they should always get that job. It's like, you lose jobs, you get jobs, things come and go. There's always another option. Like building the resiliency at a young age is the key to a strong adulthood. And we're sometimes so protective of the youth and putting them in these bubbles that when they do face the world that actually does exist around them, they are not equipped. And jiu-jitsu does that it's the most humbling of all sports, I say, when you get onto a mat with someone who, it doesn't matter what they look like, size, shape, whatever, you have no idea where their technical level is. And they can truly out-technique you and make you feel like you've been murdered on the mat, is what I like to say. And sometimes you are. And it's humbling. And when kids start jiu-jitsu at a younger age, it's helpful. They learn quickly, wow, not only can I neutralize someone without hurting them, which is what I teach in the first book, is very much everything about jiu-jitsu. This is not your self-defense where we're trying to punch and kick and hit. Mm-hmm. So many parents keep their kids from these types of sports. I literally remember someone saying, I just don't want to teach my kids that hitting is the answer. And I say, well, let me tell you this. This is a real world, and hitting might be their only answer of survival in terms of safety, as we've seen with all the videos online with bullying. Like, you might have to hit back. But more importantly, jiu-jitsu offers you a way to defend and control in a way that neutralizes your opponent safely. It's the least hitting sport of all the martial arts. I don't have to hit someone. I just control them and wait until they just exhaust. And they'll be so tired, no one gets hit. We all smile.
Yeah, and you're right. I think a lot of parents do have this misconception about martial arts, and especially about jiu-jitsu. It's not about becoming the biggest and strongest and beating people up. It's actually the opposite. That behavior is probably the first thing that's going to get you thrown out of a dojo.
At least any of ours, that's for sure. Yep.
And I think too, it's sad to say. We want to give our kids the strength and the understanding that violence is certainly not the first answer, and we need to speak up, and we need to ask an adult for help if our words directly to the kids who are hurting us aren't helping, and we need to talk to our parents, and we need to talk to our teachers and principals and counselors. But boy, if there's somebody actually assaulting you, our kids need to be able to stand up for themselves.
Jen, I'm so glad you said that, because I actually know a student of ours who is well versed and equipped with all the jiu-jitsu knowledge possible. But I realized there was a beat missed, because she was in school, she was bullied, and to a point of physical probing, they really poked at her physically, and she did not fight back. And to this day, I was like, why why didn't you use what you knew you could, what you had? Like, you literally could just sit on them in a way that they would never be able to get out, and then help would come. Mm-hmm. And she said, I didn't want to let the adults down in my world because they all think I'm such a good kid. They all think I'm not a problem maker. And I thought that by engaging physically with somebody that I would be making the problem. So I realized we miss the gap. When we tell kids not to hit, we're telling them never hit. Mm-hmm. And that's not what we mean. If someone is attacking you, please, dear goodness, save yourself. We're not in a point of survival anymore. But if you're in survival, do anything it takes. Whatever it takes at school. If someone takes you behind the building and just starts endlessly punching you, my goodness, please use your physicality to save yourself, you know? And I realize that some places we're missing that connection back to, you have permission to physically defend yourself when you absolutely need to. Until then, Jiu-Jitsu will offer you a neutralizing ability to bring people's emotional situation down so you can talk it out as much as possible. But if it turns physical, you got it. Mm-hmm. There's power there.
Mm-hmm. I also love what you're talking about in terms of communities and helping kids, helping adults understand that if it's not working out in this community, this is a big world. There are other communities, there are other tribes out there, and I think that's especially hard for a lot of folks, especially kids in elementary school, because they're going to school and they're playing sports, and they're with the same group of kids everywhere they go in their communities, and that can be very difficult. But since jiu-jitsu and a lot of martial arts are it's not like baseball where everybody's playing baseball or everybody's playing soccer. They might be able to find that different community there in the dojo.
Yeah, and even within a dojo, there's communities within communities. That what I love about team sports is it builds like very much our tribe sense. But if that tribe doesn't feel right, in jiu-jitsu, it's a one-on-one sport. Mm-hmm. You don't like to roll with that girl? Great, come over here, roll with this girl. You don't like that girl? Great, come over here, roll with this guy. There's ample amounts of bodies in a room to diversify your interactions and the emotional depth that you go with each of them. You can choose. Well, we'll be really close friends. We'll play outside of the dojo, or we won't, and we end up not. So the ability in a martial arts setting to really choose your partner, who you play with, and even say to someone, I don't want to roll with you. Last time you hurt me. Mm-hmm. Now you're even offering like awareness that they can see on their own physicality. And hey, sometimes you take it too personal, like you get emotional when we roll. I don't like that. And in my book, Jen, what's really cool, at the very back page, I have a double parent page that talks very much about the feelings of children and as they come up and how to deal with them. So when kids are in these classes and they start to well up and overwhelm us, you can see the tears are in the base of their eye, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I help this kid? The parents are equipped by the 4 steps I offer in the back of the book to kind of really identify the emotion, walk them through it, help them see what their options are, and then bridge them to a transitional moment. Because sometimes, Jed, people watch these kids get emotional and the distraction is real. Like, feel something different. Mm-hmm. Versus, no, feel the full feeling. Mm-hmm. But even I, as an adult, feel my full feeling, and I don't know how to bridge to that next happy moment. Mm-hmm. You get into an argument with your spouse or your significant other, and you're like, you're heated, but you've kind of resolved, but you're still heated. Uh-huh. And you're like, how do I just become okay again? And kids feel that at an even bigger level. They need a bridge to the next moment. Mm-hmm. And sometimes martial arts can offer that bridge. Parents can offer that bridge. The Kaylin Finds Her Power at the back of the book. There's like 2 pages that talks about how to bridge to the next moment, how to really offer your child to feel fully complete in the feelings that they're feeling, and then how to move, how to step and act on the next situation.
Yeah. And I especially love that lesson that we can teach our kids, that you can express to somebody, use the example of in the dojo, I don't want to roll with you because of this. Yes. And then give them the opportunity to move away. Just think how valuable that lesson is going to be for them when they're in their late teens or their 20s or 30s and they're in relationships. and they find themselves in relationships that are not making them happy, to have that strength to say, nope, this is it. This is my limit, and I'm not going to roll with you in this relationship anymore.
Yeah, it's so true. And you'd be surprised that as to the adults at our school here at Gracie University, we have adults who don't have the confidence to say, I don't want to roll with him. He goes a little, hard, or he's not as technical, and I feel unsafe. They're not even 35, 50, 40, and 50-year-olds don't even have the confidence to say that to someone because they're too scared they're going to hurt someone's feelings. So sometimes they won't protect their physicality out of protecting someone else's feelings. And I think that is it starts with our kids. We have to be able to tell children, no, you should be able to tell someone, I don't like the way you're rolling with me. So either change it or I'm not going to roll with you. Very simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
no hurt feelings needed.
Absolutely. Tell those kids, I don't need you to be my best friend. I can find other
Yeah.
folks.
Oh my God, Jay, that's so beautiful that your daughter did that.
Oh, I'm so proud of her. Both of my kids, they're fantastic. But one of the things that's fantastic, I'm looking on your website, is you also, in addition to writing really empowering children's books, is you mentor moms.
I do. I help mothers and families. I've actually gotten just as many fathers. I just happened to lean towards the moms at the time when I created it. But I mentor families into the idea of creating respectful homes and harmonious households derived on the idea of mutual respect and compassionate communication. And the idea that when communication happens in families, when emotions are not handled within themselves first, things start to unfold. And then parents go to a place of control of kids. So the first things people call me about, Jed, is how can I control my kid? They're doing X, Y, or Z. And I laugh because they start with the want to control. And I'm like, great. We have to shift the mindset first from control to understanding what the child's needs are, why the family is diverting to the same patterns and kind of outcomes regularly. Why do we keep getting to the point where your children are hitting you, you're screaming, everyone's mad, and they end up in different rooms? So I really peel back the layers and help them find where the patterns keep going in that negative direction, how to repattern their patterns or direct them to a place of compassion and understanding. And it's been a very beautiful synergistic thing and self-healing, not just for me, but for them. And I've just found that I am but a tool that they use to really see what they're capable of. I'm not telling them anything they don't really already know. It's just hard to kind of see when you're in the middle of mud that you are covered in mud.
Yeah. It is very hard to see, and it's wonderful that you're out there providing this service for families, and I'm really excited, and I know folks are going to want to know where they can connect with you and roll with you online, Victoria.
Yes. So if you are interested in getting any of the books, and we also offer with the books Bear, and the Bear we think is, one of our key elements. The bear has an integrated skeleton that allows you to train jiu-jitsu with a bear safely. So for kids who aren't in class or are too young for class or don't feel safe rolling with the other kids in class, you can get this bear. His name is Bubba Bear. He's in both books, and you can do jiu-jitsu with him. That is on the magicalbelt.com, magicalbelt.com. And that is where both books are available. If you want to learn anything more about me or the mentoring that I do, am available at Vic Gracie, VICGRACIE.com. And our school, we have schools, over about 100 schools worldwide that teach our bully-proof program, is available online as well and in DVD form for families to take home with their kids at gracieuniversity.com. And if you go there, you can find a school probably in any major city near you, and if not, it's coming to you. So we also have streaming online content available there. I teach the Women Empowered program from Gracie University, which is our women's self-defense program, also streaming online.
I'm so excited, and I had such a great time speaking to you today. We've been speaking to just a fascinating woman. She is the author of her newest book is Kaylin Finds Her Power, Victoria Gracie. Victoria, thanks so much for being part of the show, and I look forward to you to having you back on the show in the future.
Thank you so much, Jed. I really, really appreciate your time and your generosity and for all the book reviews that you do so that we can find the best books for our kids, because we know that that is an important bridging gap for us and children.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. We'll be back with another STEM Tuesday edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, we would love to help you celebrate your wonderful children's book. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book. All you need to do is go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button. Let us know about your great book. We will let you know the next easy steps. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so very, very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank Victoria Gracie. Be sure to check out Kip and the Magical Belt, and also Kaylin Finds Her Power. Also want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. Be sure to check out Fatima's wonderful blog at readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all of the support that she gives me, and I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.